Major Encounters. I am Tommy Salmon. Today's guest is self-employed and the founder of Life Skills That Matter, Stephen Warley. In this conversation, Stephen and I discuss how technology is changing the definition of freedom, how technology is changing what we think of as the work atmosphere and environment. We discuss his accelerator program, how it helps people discover how to be their number one resource. We discuss living your best life by working for yourself and setting yourself free from the corporate struggle. And we discuss making business as easy as possible. This is a great conversation with Stephen Warley. I think you'll all enjoy it.
All right, Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm amazing. How are you doing today, Tommy?
I'm doing well. We're going to try this for the second time. I know you got somewhere to go, so it's going to be a little bit of a shorter episode. So we're going to get rolling here.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, as we discussed priorly, that's not even a word, is it? Prior.
Hey, it's a new word today.
It's a new age, man. So we can just make things up as we go. We got the postmodernism at work.
Absolutely.
All right. So we whenever I introduced you last time, which as people will find out, it didn't record, so we're having to do this again. I told you that the way I heard about you was when I was talking to Kylan, and we were talking about how prior to the industrial age, 80% of people were self-employed. After the industrial age, it dropped to 15%. And now we're looking at an age with technology where people can be self-employed. Amazon offers some features so that people can start their own businesses real easily with very little overhead. And technology in itself just offers so much opportunity to people. And it seems like you found a way to leverage technology, not only in your favor, but in coaching other people and teaching them how to be successful entrepreneurs. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been working for myself for the last 18 years, and most of it online before everybody was like doing this as the cool thing to do, right? I just think it's now no longer the cool thing to do. It is becoming the option. And you just pinged my brain because I just want to have a little cautionary tale, because a lot of times we think that when we're going to work for ourselves, we start these businesses, we hear other people starting their businesses. We have to be careful of what we're looking for here. Do you want to make just a ton of money? And that doesn't necessarily give you freedom. Or do you want true freedom to live an integrated life? So you mentioned people starting businesses on Amazon, or a lot of people start their businesses and they buy a ton of Facebook ads, or they build their entire platform on somebody else's platform. I've kind of recently, Tommy, gotten into this new line of conversation that I want to caution people that when you're liberating yourself from the traditional hierarchy of bosses, be careful what you're trading that for. If you build your entire platform on Amazon or Facebook or using Google AdWords or some other platform, you don't have full control of your business. You don't have full control of how you're going to work, because with a flick of a button or a switch, or just Facebook decides to do something one day, or Amazon, or even Google with YouTube, you can easily, your revenues could drop instantaneously without a conversation. And that's happened to a lot of YouTubers. That's happened to Amazon affiliate folks, where they change the structure of how they want to deal with folks or how they want to work with their partners without talking to you about it. So in a weird way, they're kind of like this new quasi-boss, right? And so I just want to throw that out there. You might not have seen that coming, Tommy, but I just want to put that out there. I will say this. If you're getting started, sometimes it's okay. I do agree to experiment on some of these platforms because they do make it a lot easier to find customers. But in the long term of things, if you want true freedom, you want to be building your own platform. So my own platform is my own website that I fully control. My own email list that I fully control. Not saying that I don't participate in social media, but at the end of the day, the economic underpinnings of my business, I am in full control over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense, and you're right. There is kind of, like you said, a quasi boss relationship because, um, as we've seen, at least on the political side of things, people can be, they call it shadow banning, or they are deplatformed. And when you look at the algorithms of Facebook and starting a page, Beatrix and I were talking about this the other day. She started a page for her virtual assistant business, but we don't spend a whole lot of time on that page because most people aren't seeing that. They'll see like one out of every 100 posts that you put up or something like that.
So why do you want to put all that energy into that? And because basically Facebook wants you to buy ads so more people will see it. So it's like they kind of game the system.
Right. And I heard somebody talking about it the other day, and it's like, we've become the product. The reason that like Facebook and Google and things like this
are you to own yourself.
Free.
Let me just jump in here for a second. This is really important. What I am preaching to people or advocating to waking people up to is, for far too long since the beginning of the industrial age, that is all we've all been viewed as. We are viewed as resources. Literally, there's an entire department inside of almost every company in the United States called a human resource department. Yep. You're just viewed as an input, just like energy or other materials. You're just another input. Number two, on the other end of that, we are called consumers. We are viewed as who's going to gobble up all this product that's being made by the corporations, the consumer, right? So what I am trying to advocate is true economic freedom, that if we can start helping each other create our own work or be more conscious of what each of us is consuming and who it's for and why we're doing it, that is true personal freedom. That's true economic freedom in my book. And that's what I want people to realize, that you are now in charge of yourself as a personal resource. This is for you to manage. And I know that freaks people out because we were taught to be freaked out about that we couldn't possibly manage ourselves. We couldn't possibly manage our time, our energy, and our money all on our own. Because in the old industrial system, they wanted people to follow the directions, to defer to authority, to do something over and over again without question. We are now moving into an economy where that skill set, mindset, set of habits, whatever you want to call it, is, to say the least, so unhelpful. We need to be creative again and curious again, and to think for ourselves and to help each other. And so this is where, again, we need to take control of our own personal resources again. That's my message.
Yeah, and I don't think people understand that, like, coming up on a podcast like this, where I'm just getting started. I've released 6 episodes. I have more recorded that need to be released to date. You're looking at a situation in which you're getting on here with all your valuable information, and you're giving this information for free. So you're living the experience of helping people. You're not just saying, yeah, we need to help each other become more independent and show self-ownership. You're actually putting your actions, putting your money where your mouth is. You're not getting paid for this. And you do a lot on the side. Obviously you have your platform and your products that you do sell, and we're going to get into the accelerator program here in just a second. But you're willing to have discussions with people on the side for little money or no money, and have that conversation and determine whether or not you're even the right person to help this individual. And that says a lot about your faith in what you're doing.
I appreciate that, seriously, because it's different. It's about what you want in life. We all have been indoctrinated again to think that money is everything, that is going to be the key of all happiness and success. If we only had enough money, then everything will be figured out. In my last business, I made a lot of money, and I decided that, guess what? I'm not any happier or feel any more successful than I did before. So what is it? And what I'm trying to get people to understand is to really evaluate yourself as that resource, to really understand yourself as a human, so you can create work and live in alignment with your values, your needs, and your abilities. And right now, we are being asked to work in alignment with the needs of a large organization, whether that's public or private, for the vast majority of us. So that's why more of us feel anxious. That's why more of us feel maybe a little depressed or miserable at work. We all accept that, it's just miserable. For work to be considered work, it has to have an element of misery. I completely disagree. And this is because we're out of alignment, and we're out of our natural rhythms, and we're out of the rhythm of ourselves. And that's where I'm going to try to bring that back into alignment with everybody. So why I honestly, Tommy, I'm raising my right hand. I swear, if I became a millionaire, I'm not going to be any happier than I am right now. Yeah. I am very blessed. I have all my basic needs covered. And in fact, you might be familiar with this. I have a lifestyle calculator. You can go to lifeskillsthatmatter.com/calculator. It's free because I want people to understand how much money do you need to live the life that you want? How much does that all really cost? And I want everybody to have their own unique number over their head. Tommy, when I ask people how much money they want to make, inevitably the answer, what do you think it is, the most common answer I get?
I would say probably $1 million a year.
It's actually a little lower. People are a little bit, but they say, I want to make six figures, right?
Right. Okay.
I want to make six figures because it's achievable, but it's still a lot of money for everybody, right?
Right.
So then I always ask people, where'd you come up with that number? And everybody kind of like, I don't know. You just pull that number out of thin air. You know where you got that number? Because it sounds good. It is a status symbol. Mm-hmm. It is something to strive for, that if you hit that number, then you have made it or have achieved some level of success in the eyes of everybody else in society. Who the hell cares? What makes you happy? And you know what I love, Tommy? I know the emails I love when people do that in the lifestyle calculator and they email me back. They're like, oh my gosh, Stephen, it turns out I only need to make $68,000 a year to live the life that I want. And I'm like, yeah. It's possible, right? And just getting people to really take a hard look at how they spend their money, because everybody knows how much money they made last year, Tommy, but few people know how much money they spent. And here's why, because every time in your employee mindset, every time you get a raise or promotion, you get a bump in your pay, your spending gets pegged to that. Your spending automatically goes up. So that's why we're all, when I talk to a lot of people about working for themselves, they're like, but I really am comfortable with my current lifestyle. Am I going to have to cut back? Am I going to have to make less money in the short term to get ahead? And more often than not, I tell them, yeah, you're going to. I mean, this is a great opportunity to see where the heck is your money going, and is it really making you happy? So that's what I think one of the fun side benefits of doing this lifestyle calculator is, where is that spending going? Is it in alignment with the kind of life that you want to live, or are you just wasting a lot of this money? I don't believe in bad spending and good spending. I just believe in, is it productive or unproductive in terms of the goals that you've set for yourself and the life that you want to live? I think I went off on a tangent, but you can bring me back to your original question.
No, that's okay. One of the things I've had this conversation with Beatrix.
You got me fired up, Tommy.
Well, this is something I'm really passionate about, and I tried recording a couple of solo episodes to explain what I wanted to accomplish with the podcast, and I was having troubles verbalizing it, and I really need to sit down and write it down and just read it, because and I don't like doing that, because I like the idea that the podcast comes across like a conversation, and that's what I want people.
Can I give you an idea
of what I want to do?
No, I'm getting the idea of how to do what you want to accomplish, because I've done a lot of video training, and I've always said people want to hear from somebody that's talking to them in a conversational tone, not in a lecture tone, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I would always tell all of my trainers, so my last business, I had 35 trainers, 600 video trainings as part of a sales business for local broadcasters, how to sell more digital advertising and other types of advertising. Right. I would tell them, we're going to write down your bullet points of thought of what are the key messages or lessons that you want to teach, and maybe one other bullet point if there's a story you want to remind yourself to tell, or if there's an example or concept that you want to use. So that way you keep it on time. There is a structure to it, but it's going to come off more conversational, because not every single word is written out. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, it does.
So you're prompting your brain.
Right. And I do have a tendency when I write, I don't write the exact same way I talk. And that's kind of what I wanted to avoid. I didn't want to write something out and it'd be like a lecture, or, sound, political, and not political in the sense that it had to do with politics, but like I'm running for office or something.
Well, this is a great example, because I call it the language of, this is what you think you're supposed to sound like. We are all infected by this, and how we work, how we think, how we act, all the stuff that we think we're supposed to do. But then deep down inside, and every individual one of us, there's the things that we want to do, and I'm not talking about we all want to break the law or do something unethical, but there's things that we want to do that we feel that our immediate social circle or society is like, you're going to be weird if you do that. We're going to be like, huh? why are you doing that? And actually, I think self-employment for me, for most of my 18 years, has been a lot like that. People are like, how are you making money? There's no way. Why would you want to be working for yourself? Don't you miss working in office? All these things, because all those folks were like, they were afraid in some regards of what I was putting out there to say, like, yeah, there's another way to work. And that requires more accountability. If you want more freedom, that requires more accountability, more responsibility. I have nobody else to blame but myself if things go wrong, right? And that is a very uncomfortable position for most people. They love having the bosses and the managers above them. They think they're so bad, they're keeping them down. But at the same time, they love complaining about them.
Yeah. And well, and this is, let's get back to your calculator, because I think that's a great tool that people should use. And it's something that Beatrix and I had talked about before I even ran across you. She was worried about money. And I think she's mentioned this to you, that because she's about to start your course. Yay,
Beatrix, can't wait to work with you.
She's excited. She's like, I need to go back and watch that video that they recorded the other day, because she was at work, and I didn't watch it because I was asleep. I happened to be driving nights last week, so I missed it. But she was worried about the money, and we were sitting down talking about it, and I was like, well, we need to take this a step at a time, because you've never been self-employed. So you don't even know what it takes to be self-employed. You have to learn how to shift your thinking. So the first thing you want to do is you make your first dollar, right? Like, that's the first goal. You have to make the first dollar before you can worry about what you're making throughout the year. And then you have to make the first $100. Then you have to make the first $1,000. So our first goal should be getting your first client and getting you situated in a way in which you're making that first dollar. And then after that,
and even let me back, if I can even back up before that.
Right.
Before you're even making the money, a lot of times there's kind of 4 parts to really starting a business. It's really managing yourself, validating your idea, telling customers about your idea, and then setting up your business systems. And I teach what I call the niche tribe model. So I'm often advocating to people to start with a subject matter or product or service that you're already skilled at, familiar with, or at least super passionate about, you want to learn a lot about. Part 2 of that is you want to then do that for a group of people that A, you already have connections with, or they are very familiar with you, or B, again, it's a group of a tribe or a group of people that you really want to hang around with more. You're really excited about that, so you're going to be committed to meeting more of them. So what that does, it kind of reduces that validate your idea problem and the reaching out to your customer problem, part of those 4 quadrants, because there's so much to think about when you're starting for a business for the first time, that you want to make it as easy as possible. So it's easier to do things that you're already familiar with, and with people that you're familiar with as well. Because if you have a brand new idea out of a clear blue sky for a completely different market that you've never dealt with, it's going to be that much harder to get things off the ground, because at the same time, you're learning how to manage yourself and you're learning how to set up all of your business systems. So, for example, I had a lot of connections in the broadcasting industry. I also had learned a lot about digital marketing. I was very passionate about it in the late 90s, early 2000s. So that's how I came to create a business, by teaching local broadcasters about how to make more money from digital advertising. And I had a very limited amount of clients to go after, actually only 50, because I actually only sold to every state broadcast association. You're down in Texas, they were a client of mine. And that also helps when you're starting out a business for the first time. Having fewer people to think about who you're going after is also very liberating. A lot of times people will say, oh my gosh, I can only go after 100 possible clients. And like, that's a good thing, because then they can actually get to know you, can get to know them, you can really understand their problems, really get in their head, and build a connection so that way they will want to buy your product or service. So you're building in partnership with them. And I think so that's something else to be thinking about when you're working with yourself. I think if you're listening long enough by now in this conversation, there is a little bit of a theme of how I like to teach business. A lot of times when people want to teach others about starting an online business or working for themselves for the first time, they really focus on all the business tactics and all the hacky things that you can do to grow your business. Those things are going to constantly change over time. What's not going to change are the fundamentals, those soft skills of really getting to understand yourself and how you want to work and what makes you confident, what makes you motivated, how you're going to constantly be building your community as a habit, constantly looking for new customers and advisors. And that's not a to-do list. checklist item. That is just something that you're always doing. So that is what I'm teaching. I mean, that's why the company that I've built is called Life Skills That Matter, because I can't tell you exactly what the future of work is going to look like 10 to 15 years out. I will tell you one thing, the skills are going to constantly change. And the only way to keep up with that level of change, and it's going to keep accelerating, and to make yourself feel more valuable, more resilient, is to really understand the life skills that I teach people. And one of the most important life skills is self-awareness, is really starting to understand yourself as a resource, which we've talked a lot about.
Yes. And now you brought up life skills that matter. So let's kind of shift into that direction and kind of get into the meat of how you work with somebody. What is your first step? If somebody contacts you, what's the first step that they take in determining whether or not that your program is right for them?
Do they have a solid business idea? And I don't mean a solid business idea hasn't been validated, but are they really excited about pursuing a particular business idea? Now, there's a lot of people that come to me that either have lots of different business ideas, or they know they really want to work for themselves and they have no business idea. They don't know what they want to do. So I often direct them to my free 12-week self-assessment challenge. You can go to lifeskillsthatmatter.com/challenge just to start learning about themselves, how they like to work, developing their curiosity. I'm actually in the future want to develop another program of how to find and validate your business idea. Because by the time you get to the accelerator, the purpose of the accelerator is for people who have a business idea they're very excited about and focused on, or they're already working on it. And in some cases, people who are already full-time self-employed for less than 2 years, but they've been struggling to make enough money. Right. So that's really who this accelerator is for. And a lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, 30 days, some people think like, well, that sounds really intense, or is that long enough? Here's the thing, for first-time entrepreneurs or people who want to work for themselves for the first time, Tommy, I really need to take over your life for like 30 days, and it is going to be intense, because what I have learned, working for yourself is not just changing how you work or how you're going to make money, but it's really a shift in your identity. You will never look at your time, your money, your energy, your connections the same way ever again, because again, you're in full control of them now. You've realized that maybe for the first time in your life. And what I am also a big advocate of is running a business first by understanding your habits and what are the core habits you need to run your business, usually about 3 core habits. I've kind of gotten my business down to 2 core habits, which is creating content in the morning and then connecting in the afternoon. And every business is a little bit different because the needs of your community might be different, or the type of product or service that you're developing, and just you as an individual. So that is a big part of what I'm trying to guide people towards, is to understand what those habits are. Throughout the accelerator, I'm constantly getting people, even if they're in the early idea stage, to start talking with whoever they think there might be their potential customers. Because in this day and age, you can no longer build your business without talking to your potential customers day one. And they might change and you might go in different directions, but you always, even if you're an introvert, and I'm never saying that you have to reach out to people in a certain way, but in a way that you feel comfortable and confident that you can do over and over again and can commit to. And that is a big part of this, and that's how you really validate your idea. You want to know the problem that you're solving for somebody better than they know it for themselves. I'm always telling people, don't marry your solution. We always fall in love with our business idea. You want to fall in love with the problem, because if the people that you're talking to, all of a sudden they look at the problem in a slightly different way, they want to solve it in a slightly different way, you better listen up, because that might be a better idea and they might be willing to pay you more for it than your original idea. So that is another huge part of this throughout the accelerator. And even by the end of the accelerator, even within the first 2 months, a lot of the people that exit already have their first couple of clients, or they've added a few clients to their portfolio. And that's what I want to see happen, because your brain, Tommy, is saying, oh my gosh, you want to do this big thing, you should be totally afraid of this and freaked out because it's so unfamiliar. And that's what I want. I want to show people, the faster I can get your questions out of your head, the more people that you could be reaching out to and connecting with, and the more you can be creating and really working on your product in partnership with those customers, the more confidence you're going to get in your idea, the more committed you're going to become to it, and the faster you'll end up making money. I'm not making any promises about making crazy amounts of money like in less than 6 months or a month, like a lot of people are out there, because a lot of those end up being fairly unethical tactics, even if there's a lot of gray areas. You know me, Tommy, I'm not about gray areas. I'm about being 100% honest, because that is the that is the most efficient use of your energy. Because if you have to start being a shyster and start telling yourself stories about why, doing price arbitrage basically on Amazon is okay, that's a problem for you down the road because it's a slippery slope. And just a quick little sidebar, I do have some issues with some online businesses out there. And what I mean by price arbitrage on Amazon, people will find a very desirable product that people want and then find it at a cheaper price and then upsell it on Amazon. I don't agree with that. I want to inspire people to find problems that are worth solving. Don't get people to buy stuff that they really don't need at a higher price. That just doesn't sit well in my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely something that a person, they may not struggle with in the beginning because they're replacing their income or whatever, but eventually you're going to feel the guilt of immorality if you're doing something that is just wrong, So,
and there's plenty of problems. Like I always tell people, because there's a scarcity mindset versus the abundant mindset. I'm not sure if you've talked about that on your show, but
no,
a lot of us are in that scarcity mindset. It's Carol Dweck, The Growth Mindset. Definitely read this book, but it's just how you view life. A scarcity mindset is somebody's like, I'm born this way. There's nothing I can do about it. These are my options and I just have to deal with it. Versus the abundant mindset saying, hey, I can learn something new. Boy, there's so many opportunities. Let me go after them and explore them, experiment with them, see where they go. So in that scarcity mindset, a lot of people view their economic fortune or their opportunities as jobs. And there's a limited set of jobs right now, even in a good economy. Limited set of jobs, scarcity mindset. But as you move into the self-employed mindset or the entrepreneur mindset, you start to see more opportunities because how many problems do you think need to be solved in the world, Tommy?
Oh, there are millions of problems in the world. So.
I would even go so far as infinite, right?
Yeah.
So that is an abundant mindset to say like, whoa, there's all these problems that need to be solved in the world, and I can make money for them by solving these and doing good for other people. Whoa. I mean, wouldn't you want to be in that world? I mean, that's the world I love being in because it's exciting to solve a problem for somebody. Like I'm solving the problem. Really, at the end of the day, for a lot of people, is their work anxiety. They feel so stuck, so anxious, so overwhelmed that they don't have any control over their economic life. And I'm saying, hold on a second. I once thought like that too. Then I got laid off 18 years ago on election day, and it opened my eyes. I'm like, holy crap. The way we were all taught to work was just one version of how to work. There's infinite ways to work now, and you get to design that based on your values, your needs, and abilities. And at the same time, do good. The old Ben Franklin adage of do well by doing good. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. I mean, even as I'm a little bit of a different entrepreneur, I'm a little bit of a social capitalist, if you will, and I want to have a balance. I want my business to do well, but I want it to make more money so I can fund more programs to help more and more people realize and achieve their own economic independence. But for me, even in this business, I'm capping my salary at $125,000 a year. That's it. That's all I'm making from this business because that's all I need to live my life. And I want to live by example. I am not going to stand up there and say, look at all the money I'm like, look at all the fancy cars I have and all the houses. Don't you want to be like me? No, because you're just filling those people are just filling a hole in their hearts. Right. You can't ever feel satisfied with materialism. It catches up to you. It eats away at you eventually. I want you to have your toys and your fun few things, but even with that lifestyle calculator, a big part of that is know your priorities. Know what it is that you really want. If you're really into cars, go get yourself the car that you want. But if you're not really into having a house or you're not really into vacations, then don't feel that you have to have fancy vacations and fancy houses just because everybody else is doing it.
Right. Yeah, and one of our things, like Beatrix and I, one of our main things is we would like to get to a point where we can both be home together, working together, and
yes,
and not rebuild, but redo the inside of the house and turn it into a bed and breakfast and a homesteading bed and breakfast where we're growing.
Oh my God, I want to visit. I'm totally into this, Tommy.
I love the idea.
I'm a gardener, I'm a traveler.
Yeah. When people come and they're able to pick their own vegetables and this, that, and the other, and we cook it for them. We have a pond in the back. I'm going to expand the pond and make it bigger so they can catch their own fish. And we just hang out at night and and we cook it. And we're not like really far from like Beaumont, so there's a city close by, so there's access to different things. But if you just want to get away and feel like you're gone, I think this is a perfect spot where we're at, because there's not a lot of people around. There's not going to be anybody bothering you. We're set off of the interstate or the highway, probably about an eighth to a quarter of a mile off the highway. We're set way back on our property. We have like 9 acres. So it's just this escape that people can get away for a weekend, and it's something that we really want to do. And that's what we're really striving to get to. But we have to be able to replace our incomes so that we have the time to put into the house.
I love it.
So
that's what you want.
Yeah, ultimately we know exactly what we want to do, and our goal really isn't to make money; it's to spend as much time as we can together. Yes. Beatrix is from South Africa. When she moved here to the United States to be with me, she did not move here so that we would never see each other. And given my job, we very rarely see each other. We see each other a lot more than we did because I'm home every weekend now. But she doesn't want to be here alone Monday through Friday, and I don't want to leave her. Whenever I have to leave every Monday, it's the hardest thing in the world. I hate it. I despise having to leave her. And so it's one of those things. We just want to be together. We want to work together. We want to spend our time together. It doesn't really matter how much money we make, as long as we make enough money to survive and make it through life and be fairly comfortable and not have to worry about money.
So this is another thing I'm really big on. It's looking at your personal resources. And let's just talk about money, time, and energy for a second. Mm-hmm. We have overinflated the value of money, right?
Right.
And what we need to do is put money on an equal footing with time and energy. Mm-hmm. Let me give you even a further reduced, an alternative view of how to look at these resources. The most limited resource that you have is time. No matter how wealthy you are, we all have the same hours in the day. Now, granted, the argument is the more money you have, that you can pay other people to do things to free up more of your time. That is true. Automation can also free up more of our time. But time is your most limited resource. Energy is also pretty limited. It can be replenished, but it's limited. Because everybody thinks, I can work 10 plus hours a day. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to work 100-hour weeks. A lot of times people are held back by the notion of working for themselves because they think they're going to be working all the time. Not true. I've never worked this way. I have about two months off a year. I always spend the holidays with my family for an extended period of time. My last business, I was working an average of 20 hours a week, doing still something that I really enjoyed and was learning. So the idea there is when, on average, we're all awake 16 hours a day. And we have this infected idea, this old industrial idea that we're supposed to be like machines and working as much as we can every hour of the day. But here's the thing, as a human being, every single hour you're awake, is that energy that is available to you is not equal. Right? Mm-hmm. So you only have about 3 to 4 hours a day of high quality energy, of sharp mental focus to do your best work. And let's face it, more and more of us, even if you're doing work with your hands, is becoming more knowledge-based work because of technology. So our mental work, we have a very limited capacity. You're not going to be able to write a book or blog post or do whatever creator's pursuit that you're doing for 10 straight hours. It's not possible. Right. I've done the research on this. I've done the experiments. I've read all kinds of biographies of scientists, of philosophers, artists throughout the ages. And on average, they worked 3 to 4 hours a day. And those that worked longer generally used drugs. So you can do that if you want. After a while, that will catch up to you. Mm-hmm. But I just wanted to give people another way of looking at your time, your energy, your money, because right now we're locked into this paradigm of viewing money in this way, of needing all this stuff. So we're kind of become enslaved to our possessions, enslaved into this idea of who can work the most. And it kind of ticks me off when people say, oh, I can't do this because I have to work. I can't spend more time with them because I have to work. And it's about like, well, what are you doing about that? Does that bother you? Don't you want to challenge that assumption? Why do you accept that? Why do we all accept this? Working as much as possible should not ever be a status symbol. It's a sickness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that I think everybody has to overcome is I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to do anything on the side. I don't have enough time to do this. I don't have enough time. And the way I look at it is, if I don't leverage what little time I do have, and we've talked about my schedule and how it's all messed up, and I'll be working nights one day.
You're trying to fix it.
Right. My job is like, the way I look at it, my goal right now is to take what little time I do have and leverage it into such a way to create more time. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm trying to do that by creating an income stream outside of my current income stream, so that I don't have to spend so much time to create income, And so it's kind of it's a conundrum. It's like, well, I don't have enough time to create a side income in order to have more time. Well, if you don't have time, that should be your reasoning for creating a side income. That shouldn't be what's holding you back, So it's really difficult, I think, for people to wrap their heads around it. And I do understand the time constraints. Like I said, we talked about this before. My issues with time are a lot different, and it's very estranged compared to what most people's obstacles with time are because of my job. Most people, I think I sat down and I figured it out. If I take the excuse me, if I take the 2 hours I spend every morning drinking my coffee and waking up, and I take my weekends that I'm home and everything, I think I figured out that I have something like 60 hours a week that I can spend to learning a new skill and applying that skill set. And so that's what I'm trying to focus on.
Hold on, let me challenge you. Let me challenge you. You're a human being. You need to rest and restore. That is a business activity. In my accelerator, for the first time, I'm actually having a self-care coach come talk to everybody, because exercising, relaxing, meditation, all these different activities now, wellness, that is a business activity. You have to take care of yourself as the engine of your business, and we forget that. We overlook it. We just think brute force, willpower, that's the way, it's that old-fashioned industrial way of how to build businesses. But in this new economy, that is one of the worst ways to build it. You will burn out, and if you are not healthy, if your mind is not clear, you're not going to make the best decisions for your business. So this is why I'm also, again, such a believer. I'm really starting to understand your rhythms, your habits of what can you commit to over the long term, day after day, even if it's only for an hour. So you mentioned a lot of folks are not in your situation in terms of of their time constraints. And I always tell people, it's even on my website, if you go to lifeskillsandmarriage.com/get started, the very first action I tell people to take is to leave their job on time, to leave work on time, and to not go into work any earlier than you have to. Why I recommend people doing that is because on average, you will get about an hour back to your day that you can then use to be working on your business or thinking about what it is that you want to do, or how you want to become self-employed, or how you want to learn more about yourself. And then even in the context of that 8-hour day, you start looking about, how can I be more productive? How can I minimize my distraction? What really needs to get done? What doesn't need to get done? What are my responsibilities? It's a self-reflection exercise to get back in touch with yourself of what do I need to do in this job to get things done? And also, if you want to work for yourself, stop killing yourself to try to get that promotion or do more than you need. I know it's hard because we have to battle our ego, but if you know you want to work for yourself in the long term, just do your job. You don't have to do no more, no less. Don't get fired, but just do your job. So that way you start also learning how to manage yourself on the job. And if you're miserable with your job right now, another way I always like to help people look at that in terms of how you want to use your time is your employer is funding your business, right? And that is better than a VC or a bank, which are just other quasi-employers, because you'll be indebted to them eventually. But use that, your current employer, as a funder of your business. They're an investor in your business. And sometimes if it's a potential consulting or freelance business that you're setting up, you might even be able to turn that employer, your job, into your first client. So that's something else to think about. And Tommy, one final thing about how you can manage your time a little differently at work. I've come across this in a lot of my podcast interviews. It's the demotion strategy, right? My most kind of famous demotion strategy story is Mike Vardy of the Productivitist, where he was a manager of a Costco. And the last job he had before he finally left was a door greeter. He went in the complete reverse order of what most people we've been all taught to do. Like, you start entry level and you move on up to management. Well, he went in reverse because he was buying himself more and more time, but just making enough money to meet his family's basic needs as his business made more and more money, until he realized that his business was making more than enough money. He didn't need that job anymore, so he left it altogether.
Right. Well, and I think we talked about this last time. That's something I did. Is I was working over the road. Excuse me, I got something in my throat and it's bothering me. I was driving over the road, and I was gone, up to a month, 2 months at a time sometimes, and I would see Beatrix for like 2 or 3 days every month, and after we completed the purchase of the house and our mortgage payments went down, I was, and then she got a promotion because she was actually going to leave her job for a job making a little bit less money, but she ended up getting like a $4 an hour promotion. And so it really wasn't a promotion, it was just a raise. But so what I did is I started driving regionally, which allowed me to be home every weekend. So this opened up my weekends. So now I could start driving to Houston every other weekend, seeing my kids again. I could spend weekends with Beatrix, and we could spend time, working together in creating, in starting to create a business idea that we could implement together and get her home. And then hopefully, and what our goal is next year, I come home. So she'll be getting, we're trying to get her home this year before December. And then before next December, I'm trying to get home as well. So we understand exactly what the income is we have to replace. And that's what we're working towards. And I completely agree with the demotion strategy, because it gets you less dependent on someone else and more dependent on yourself. And it's like weaning yourself off.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in transitions, because I think that's another traditional myth of entrepreneurship, that I have to quit, get a second mortgage, get a loan, whatever, and not to be all in, to be serious about this. And I've done the transition method, and most of the people I work with do the transition method. I think that is the more common way to do this. And I think that's actually a more natural way of how things work, of moving through transitions. And that's something I'm a huge advocate of. You also brought, I think, up an important lesson, maybe unknowingly. I love how you and Beatrix have been planning and working on a plan together. And that's something that I work with people on my 30-day accelerator, is that by the time they leave, they have a year-long strategic plan. Not a business plan. I'm not big on business plans, because those are 3 to 5 years out, and things are changing so fast. We can't honestly say what's going to happen 3 to 5 years. You can have a long-term vision of where you like to go. That should be your guiding force, your purpose. Absolutely. A lot of times traditional business plans were written to get the buy-in from a bank to give you a loan, or from investors. And most of the people that I'm advising to build businesses, to build them debt-free so you can truly own them outright 100% and really understand how much money you need to live a happy life. And that strategic plan is really about what you can think out of. Our minds can really only think about 3 months in advance through all the research that I've seen in terms of whatever our brains can handle. But a year kind of just gives you, where do I want to end up a year? How do I want to feel? What's an accomplishment I want to have? And then you work backwards, quarter by quarter, month by month, week by week, until you get down to your daily habits. And that's where I always believe I'm like looking back week to week, because if you just look back at every day, people beat themselves up, because we're always going to think, gosh, there's so much more I could have done today. But when you look at things in the context of a week, you know what happens, Tommy? You're like, wow, I got a lot done this week. And also, some days just didn't go right. Life happens to you, and there might be a day in that week where you just didn't get as much done, but there might be this other day in the week where you got so much done. So when you look at it in the context of a week, it all kind of context of a week, it all balances out, so you can feel more confident and motivated about what you are accomplishing. But at the same time, you can call yourself out if you haven't been keeping up with your habits. And if you know me, Tommy, I'm a huge advocate of journaling, of writing, especially if you're starting out, to get these thoughts out of your head, because it's a way to communicate with your emotions, your deepest thoughts, your inner voice, your subconscious mind, to find out what is really on your mind. What do you really want to do? And we can send a link to this, Tommy. It's a daily growth journal if you want to include it in the show notes. I ask people to ask themselves 4 questions a day, because sometimes people don't like to do the free writing journaling thing. I don't. But sometimes people like questions. 4 questions you should ask yourself. Number 1, did I learn something new about myself today? Good or bad? What do I need to work on, or what do I need to develop? And sometimes it could be a small thing. Number 2, did I learn something in terms of a skill or something that I need to learn on the business that I want to build today, right? Did I meet somebody today, or did I follow up with somebody that I really need to build a relationship with? And finally, did I create something today? Did I do an experiment? Did I try something out? Did I make something a little bit better in terms of something that I'm working on in terms of my product or service, or something I'm experimenting with on my business? And those are those engines, those habits of I'm constantly learning about myself. I'm constantly learning and getting better at a skill. I'm constantly creating to get better at my product or service. And I'm constantly building my community, getting to know my customers. And through that, and through creating, through engaging with customers and your advisors, you're getting to know more about yourself, how you like to learn, the skills you need to improve, and how to make your business better. So it's kind of a virtuous circle of how they all work together. And if you do that on a weekly basis and you notice, like, boy, I didn't meet anybody new this week, I'm going to tell you right now, as a former sales trainer, well, you're not going to have any new clients. Your pipeline is dry. You have to be in the habit of constantly finding a way to be reaching out.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I think it would. I looked at that PDF and I downloaded it, and I think it's a really, really interesting PDF. And it's that's one of the things I'm going to start working on and the way I think is going to work better for me, just because I know my personality and the way that I do things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start my day looking at that and use those 4 points as my daily goals, and then.
I love it. It's like you're setting an intention for your day.
Right. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to look at it again, and I'm going to reflect on, okay, how did I accomplish each one of these 4 points in my day? That's keeping me moving forward in the right direction. And that, to me, is just the best way for me to do it. So, like, frame my day in this idea.
So. You're bringing up another awesome lesson, Tommy. You're so good. I love this. So a lot of times, a lot of it's been written about kind of taking control of your mornings, right? A lot of books have been written about this. And then there's folks who are night owls who are like, well, what about me? So my message here is, even if you're a night owl, or if you're a morning person, or somewhere in between, it is really a good idea to do what Tommy has been just suggesting, is that even no matter how crazy your life is, you want to have some sort of set routine for the first hour of your day, because that first hour of your day, whether you are a morning lark or a night owl, is going to set the intention for the rest of your day. So if that first hour has no plan and is completely chaotic, the rest of your day will have a higher probability of being out of control. Now, I know a lot of you are like, but Stephen, I have kids, things happen. I get that. But if you can have as much of a routine for yourself for that first hour, and saying, this is how I want my day to go. Like, I drink a big glass of water when I first wake up, go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, I stretch, I do some meditation, I write some intentions for the day, I look at what I want to do. And now, does it always go exactly like that every single day? No, sometimes I have to, instead of spending 20 minutes on stretching, maybe I only have 5. But whatever you can be doing to committing to those habits, making a habit of really every day waking up and saying, this is how I would like my day to go. It might not go exactly as you want, but you have a lot more influence on all the rest of the little decisions you will make throughout the rest of your day of how you want that day to go.
Yeah, I'm really easily distracted. So if I don't, it's because my mind is always working. And I'll run into things and I'll just kind of fall into a rabbit hole. And it's just the way that my mind works. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, I didn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish today. And it makes a big difference for me how I start my day. If I start my day reading, then my day is usually pretty uniform and it goes pretty much as I would like it to go. If I do not start my day reading, then like I said, I fall down a rabbit hole and I end up like studying things that have no bearing on my life whatsoever that I just find interesting. And
but that's a great level of self-awareness that you've had for that. And that's what I'm trying to ask people to do, is start becoming more self-aware. Even if we think we're self-aware, we're not self-aware. It's always an ongoing practice to really see, like, you know this about yourself, to be more productive or more intentional, that you need to read in the beginning of the day. That's a great thing. So you need to make that more of a habit, make that more of an intention, recognize when it's not happening and get back on track, because you know you need that.
Right. Now, I know you have another appointment here, and we're getting close on time. So what I want to do is I want to give you an opportunity to lay out a blueprint of what your accelerator program is, and just so people can kind of assess what it is you do, and therefore they can kind of have a better idea if this accelerator program is right for them in the future.
Sure. So on average, the people that I work with have thought about working for themselves about 2 years. That's a long time. And what I'm trying to do for folks is say, let's figure this out in less than 30 days. Let's get you out of your head once and for all to see if you're going to do this or not. And more often than that, I will have them believing in themselves by the end of that 30 days. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I waited so long. I should have been doing this sooner. And that's what I'm trying to do for people, is get a wider group of people more comfortable working for themselves, because there are a group of people in society that are more naturally predisposed to working for themselves. I believe there's a much larger group that can be taught to work for themselves. We just don't have an educational system that encourages that. When that's what I want to do for people. By the time you leave that 30-day accelerator, I want you to have a year-long strategic plan, so you know the actions and the goals that you're going to be working on for that next year to grow your business. So it's kind of your lifeline throughout the rest of the year. I'm building a tight-knit community for you, because a lot of times people think working for yourself means going it alone. I completely disagree. I have about 20 people in our fall accelerator, and they're going to be working together and working on their own businesses. But when you work with a group of like-minded people, of people who want the same change as you, you will grow so much faster than trying to go it alone. Mm-hmm. I also show people how to save an average of $500 a month in unproductive spending that they can invest in their business. So a lot of times people struggle as a first-time entrepreneur investing in a program like our accelerator. And that's what I'm also trying to teach you, is how to look at your spending a little differently, how to make an investment in yourself, how to think more like an entrepreneur and less like an employee. So that's another key component. You're also going to meet with a team of experts. I have a lawyer, an accountant, a business automation coach, sales trainer, digital marketer, as I said, a self-care expert, and even in this accelerator, I'm working on a negotiation coach. So I want you to have access to these experts. And if you went out and got a 1-hour session with each one of those experts, it's well over $1,500, right? Mm-hmm. So I want you to be able to look at your business from all these different directions. I send you a daily assignment every single day to be looking at a different part of your business. So a lot of folks who have gone through the accelerator are like, whoa, that's intense. But I want you to really understand, guys, again, I want you to get as many of those questions out of your head and answered as possible before you leave the accelerator, because the more knowledge you have, that's how you really weaken your fears. The more you have that plan written, the more you get your questions answered, the more people that you meet, the more that your confidence gets built, the more that you're more likely to commit to really building your business. I had one more thing that I want to share. Shoot.
Well, I know Beatrice is excited about
that's
this.
pretty. Oh, this is a lot of other. This is the other thing I always like to tell folks is, now it's very sexy in my world to like do with everything virtual, but a big part of this program, it's live. I'm working for you for 30 days. So there is a weekly video mastermind call. So there's 20 people. We'll have different sessions. So it breaks down to about 7 people per call, because I want everybody talking, engaging with one another. People love that aspect of the program. Really dive into each other's challenges and issues. And it's a judgment-free zone. We don't know each other, and we all want to be successful. So there's kind of nothing left to lose except to be honest with ourselves and to be honest with each other. And that's what's also going to accelerate your growth. Getting people to call you out and knowing that it's coming from a good place is such a gift that most of us don't have in our lives. You know, we have a lot of loved ones and friends and family who just love us, but they might not get why we want to work for ourselves or pursue this crazy idea. So that's why I'm creating that kind of adopted family for you. So you can really do that. We do live trainings on Saturdays where I'm really getting you to take action. And I'm going to let you down a little secret. There's a lot of folks who do what I do, business coaches or entrepreneur coaches, and they don't like working with first-time entrepreneurs because they think that you're not going to be committed, that you don't have what it takes. Again, I completely disagree. I've worked with so many people who never thought they would ever be able to work for themselves, but they have these ideas, and working them through this program gives them the clarity and the confidence and the commitment to finally do it. Again, I do believe more people have the potential of working for themselves, and I feel like I really am getting down how to teach people like that, because that was me. 18 years ago, I was an employee. I never thought I could work for myself. And then economic necessity showed me the way to say, all right, I can do this. And it took me 5 years of experiments, of fumbling around. And I even got an MBA. I spent $50,000 in 2 years. I don't think you need to do that. I'm going to teach you at a far lower price in a shorter amount of time exactly what you really need to know to build your solopreneur business. And that is what I'm trying to do for people, because you know, a lot of times when people teach about business, again, they teach about all the tactical stuff, but you got to build the foundation, and you are the foundation of that. And that's why I spend so much time about really understanding yourself, really understanding how to manage and deal with your emotions, and really spending as much time as possible with the people that you are trying to build this product and service for, your clients, your customers. And that is so critical in all of this, because, again, people who thought they would never sell in their life, I get them selling, but in a way that they feel like they're not selling, and it's on their terms.
All right. Well, what I was going to say a while ago is Beatrix is super excited, and the way I know she's super excited is she's having dreams about you getting in contact with her. So she's stoked, man. She's ready to get started. And
well, I can't wait to
you know,
help
your
her.
enthusiasm is contagious. I love talking to you and all that, and I wish we could talk longer. I know you got to go. But I want to remind everybody, go to lifeskillsthatmatter.com and check out all the free material and examine what you're trying to do and sign up for the accelerator course. It's a month of hardcore training that'll get you on the right track and get you moving in the right direction. And I want to thank you for coming on, Stephen.
Tommy, thank you so much. You got me so excited. So I know I machine gunned a lot of information, but it's a jam-packed episode. It was super fun. Really appreciate it.
No doubt. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
Thank you for listening to Stranger Encounters with Stephen Warley. I'm Tommy Salmons. Late.
Sinking, tearing deeper than my skin. Faded eyes can't see, true evil within me. Broken mirror of my life.